Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Echelon Cycling Podcast. And as always, I'm joined by Outdo Cycling owner Patrick, and of course, our own Mr. Gregor himself, Ewan Wilson. And this is our podcast where we discuss what's happened in the week gone by, and it's a bit more of a discussion, long format. So, welcome if you're listening on the podcast and on the YouTube channel, of course. But yeah, gentlemen, it's been a very exciting week compared to the week before, to say the least. We've had the Volta Algarve, the Tour of Oman, the Route de la Sol, like so many races going on, really in the thick of it right now.
I mean, I consider this to be the start of the season. When the Route del Sol and Algarve start, I'm like, this is it. This is a one-way ticket to October now. Because from here we get UAE Tour, Omloop, Strade, bang, bang, bang. It just keeps on going like that. So I've had a good time swapping between having multiple tabs open, trying to watch all things at the same time. I've really enjoyed it, and it's produced some pretty interesting racing. I think Algarve was perhaps a bit more varied as opposed to Ruta del Sol, which was dominated by a certain man and a certain team. But I thought it was good nonetheless.
It feels like we're out of cycling silly season. In January, you get some sort of strange results in terms of riders you would expect winning mountain stages like Kobe Hosens. But now we're in February, we're getting a little bit more settled. We have more sort of status quo results. We have the riders we're expecting to dominate the season, dominating this part of the season. And it seems like properly we're starting to get some characters and some narrative building around 2023. And it's been a really solid week of racing, mostly concentrated in Europe for the first time in the year.
Yeah, we're better to start with the Route del Sol, or shall we say the Tadej Pogačar show. He also won a race in Spain before, a gravel race, beginning of the week. So actually when we released the episode 3, he actually won a race there. So we can't not mention that as well. So yeah, what have you guys kind of found of the the Route del Sol / Tadej Pogačar show? Even UAE show, shall we say?
Yeah, true. I mean, Pogačar winning. How do you pronounce it? It's like the Jean Interpastelia Interior, whatever race it is. The gravel one.
It's the olive
Yeah.
oil race.
Olive oil race.
If you win it, you get a big olive. I believe it's the Clásica de Jaén is the area it's in, but it's famed for its olive oil.
Oh, good. That's a good fact. I like that. But I mean, I like that because it was an inclination as to Pogačar's obviously going to Strade again in like 2 weeks' time or whatever. So he's clearly still good on the gravel. And he didn't even panic when he had a front wheel puncture or anything. I mean, he did have like a minute 30 advantage. So like I guess he didn't have too much to worry about. But he's clearly looking good on the off-road sections. And there was that cobble climb in Ruta del Sol. I can't remember what it was called up to the finish, but it was like this really beautiful looking castle. And he did really well on some really aggressive Spanish cobbles there. Obviously not like for the Flemish cobbles, but still a good inclination. But Pogačar is still good on multiple terrains, and he just picked up so many. Yeah, didn't he? What was it that you said? You were just like he'd won. If you include his 2022, he'd won like 5 days in a row. Is that right?
Yeah, he won Varesini, and then he won Lombardia, won in Jaén, won the first 2 stages in Andalusia, which makes it 5 racing days in a row with 5 victories. If you compare, it has been achieved before, but by riders, if I recall, it was like maybe Jakub Mareczko in the Tour of Hainan Lake, which is like some second-tier Chinese race where there's like 15 sprint stages and it sort of opens itself up to multiple victories. But Pog has done it on very different terrains, mountain stages, hilly stages, a one-day race with gravel and a monument. It's honestly unprecedented in our era.
Well, yeah, we've seen him do this amazing feat. We've seen him win flat time trials, win hilly time trials, mountain stages, etc., etc. Is Tadej Pogačar the complete rider right now of the current peloton?
He has to be. There is no other rider that brings in such reliable all-round skills as Tadej Pogačar. You can rely on him to be there on the mountain stage. Whether he's got teammates or not, he will still provide you with a show, with a good performance. On the hill stages as well, on these long rolling profiles, he really does just sort of hang in there and has that boy racer energy to keep things going. And even when it comes down to reduced bun sprints, he is also still there in the mix. Varesini, the first of his 5 wins in a row, He won that one in a reduced bunch sprint because he does just have that kick on him. There is no rider that comes close to Tadej Pogačar in terms of his versatility, in terms of his prestige, and his racing spirit. I think that is just almost a done debate in the sport at the moment. Jonas Vingegaard, yes, he challenged him at last year's Tour de France, but Vingegaard has not won a monument. Neither has he won an Olympic medal or a Tour de France time trial. I really do think that Pogačar is one of a kind in this generation.
I agree, but at the same time, I do think Wout van Aert.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Quite complete. I agree. I don't think that Wout van Aert brings the flamboyance that Pogačar does. That I'd much rather watch Pogačar because I know that he's really unpredictable. The only unpredictability that we saw from Wout was in, what was it, like stage 3, 4 to Calais in the Tour last year where he attacked. That was the only kind of slight unpredictability that we saw from Wout. I'm not sure if that's just because like Jumbo kind of control that, but I think
Wout.
That was from a breakaway. Yeah. It's slightly different. He hasn't won sort of a big GC rumble mountain stage in his career. If he were to have won on Hautacam at last year's Tour de France now, I think that really would have thrown his name in the ring as one of the most versatile riders. But Pogačar, I think, is simply unrivaled in this. Wout van Aert has not contended the Grand Tour GC. He has not won a UCI World Tour 1 week long stage race.
But Wout has won on the Champs-Élysées, which I know it's not a monument, but it's.
I think they're both really versatile, and they're definitely Pog 1 and Wout van Aert 2, because they're both like he hasn't won a mountain stage, Wout van Aert, but Tadej Pogačar hasn't beaten the best sprinters on a flat stage. So I think they're so unique, both of them. But yeah, Tadej Pogačar, in terms of GC riders, there's no one who rivaling. Yeah. Roglic, no. Vingegaard, no. Giant Hindley, no. Chris Froome, even when he was on his peak, wasn't any, like Froome wasn't competing in Strade Bianche or riding in the Ronde van Vlaanderen hopefully Tadej Pogačar rides Paris-Roubaix this year. That would be a spectacle. Almost cool. Bernard-esque in a way. And that's the rider that I think Tadej Pogačar really is starting to remind me of.
Yeah. I guess it's been quite hard for a rider in nowadays to really be that sort of everything like Merckx sort of was back in the day, where they literally could do everything at the top level. I think even nowadays, Pogačar is good at everything apart from a bunch sprint, pretty much, and Wout van Aert is good at everything apart from competing in like GC in a Grand Tour. So I think they're pretty much, those two are as close to the most kind of well-rounded riders that we have in this peloton. I don't really think that anybody else comes close.
I think as well, with the Ruta del Sol, the context we have of this past week, it really does illustrate Pogačar's racing spirit, his sort of second nature to win races in whatever way possible. First stage, big attack with sort of 30 kilometers to go over a mountain, distancing everybody, using that to his advantage with a 38-second gap on the line to second place, which was Mikel Landa. Stage 2, he tried to do the same thing. It didn't work. He got chased down, but he still managed to win and sort of gallop away from the group in the end on that cobble climb, as you mentioned, with him and Enric Mas. Then even on the third stage he won in the week, it was a stronger challenge from Mas, but he still managed to win the stage without sort of that long range attack aspect. On stage 5, which was won by Omar Fraile, he still gained about 10 seconds or so on his GC rivals, including Enric Mas. I really do think Pogačar, it's just this racing is second nature to him. He is so cool, calm, and collected. That mentality he has on and off the bike. He's the meme king of cycling. I think he's very understated off the bike. He's a nice guy, very cool, calm, and collected. Wout van Aert, I don't quite think he has that same sort of chilled out nature. He has more of a circus around him in terms of Belgium, also in terms of his team. If you listen to his interviews, he's a little bit more hot-headed than Pogačar, who's just cool, calm, collected. And he's just a kid on this bike. I was in Slovenia last year following Pogačar there, and one journalist said he was a psycho in terms of the fact that he doesn't mind all the suffering he goes through on a bike to win a bike race. He wants to do it. He seeks enjoyment out of all of this racing. And I think that is just unrivaled from Pogačar. He brings something to the table that no one else in the professional peloton does.
Riders like Pogačar are really integral for this sport. Like if somebody new is to come to watch the sport as an outsider, it's those characteristics like a Pogačar, like a Alaphilippe and a Van der Poel, who really because as cyclists, you don't root for a team, you almost root for individual people, and you form an attachment to a person. Yeah, having Pogačar there as that really charismatic leader is integral to the success of this sport, I think.
I mean, what Sagan was in his heyday.
Yeah, exactly. Like Sagan basically like spearheaded that sort of rider with like a large social media following as well. Like those are essentially the future of the sport, to try and get people in, because if they can interest people, then they interest people in the sport. So yeah, Pogačar's great.
Given how sort of murky almost his past couple of seasons have been, particularly 2021 with all those stage race wins, Olympic medal, yellow jersey, and 2 monument victories. We hype him up an awful lot, but he's worth a million sort of hype ups in the sport. He sometimes goes a little bit sort of underappreciated. I don't know whether it's because he's from Slovenia, it's a smaller nation, and a little bit overshadowed by Roglic. I remember in Slovenia, Roglic is more popular, more famous than Pogačar is, which is sort of bamboozling. Roglic is on billboards promoting Slovenian banks. Pogačar is not. He's got a sandwich at a supermarket. It's a little bit different. Whereas it doesn't, for some reason, it doesn't really make sense. Are people not really warming to UAE as a squad? Are people sort of, I don't know, are they fed up with Pogačar? I don't know, but he really does. We should not underappreciate how much he brings. Without Pogačar, I think this sport would just be very stale. We'd be going back to the 2015 through 18 era of cycling, which was a little bit mundane, a little bit dull, to be honest, where we would sort of have a big team domination. Chris Froome would win. I think Pogačar brings something different. He's aggressive, ride or die attitude, and we saw it last year's Tour de France. He can be beaten, and it makes him sort of seem a little bit more human.
Well, talking about him as an exciting rider, one of the aspects I think, we all kind of agree that he's really exciting about is that he's not the mold of a Chris Froome. He does do classics. He doesn't just target the Tour de France laser focus, the Lance Armstrong method. So on that theme, looking at his program, Strade Bianche, Paris-Nice, Milan-San Remo, Duatto Flandern, Tour of Flanders, Flèche-Wallonne, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Tour of Slovenia, and Tour de France, who is able to rival this flying form that Tadej Pogačar has this year in the classics and in the Tour de France?
If it's just like mano a mano, but I don't think anybody can really take him on, just like a man on him. But during the classics, I'd say, Van der Poel would be the main man that I think could take on Pogačar. More than likely. I don't really, unless Wout manages to really kind of knock this weird trend that he has of not quite being able to perform in cobbled races. I reckon I only really see Van der Poel being the main man there. In the Ardennes, I don't really see too much competition, to be honest with you, unless Alaphilippe, of course, was a bit MIA last year, of course, because he had that bad crash in Liège. So perhaps Alaphilippe makes a resurrection. He could compete there. And then in the Tour, Vingegaard, that's about it. That's how I see it going.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about 2021, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, down to a sprint between Pogačar and Alaphilippe, won by Pogačar. He's got a better kick than a lot of these sort of puncher guys, more than an Evenepoel, more than a Sasha Vlasov, more than a... I think him and Alaphilippe will be close, but I think he's proven on more occasions that he is a little bit stronger than Alaphilippe in a kick like that. In terms of the Cobble Classics, I 100% agree. Van der Poel, I would say, is probably the bigger rival. Who knows if we're going to get a full form sort of as grain? I'm a little bit skeptical about that this year. And Wout, I don't know. I don't think Wout solo would be able to beat them, but would be able to beat both Van der Poel and Pogačar. If Wout had his whole team backing him with Christophe Laporte, Nathan van Hooijdonk, and so forth, 100% they could probably beat Pogačar. But I think tete-a-tete, it's Pogačar and Van der Poel for Ronde.
I mean, sticking on that theme with UAE dominance, we're going to talk about the rankings later on. What is happening with Jumbo-Visma? We haven't really seen them roll out their big stars as of yet.
I don't know, because this is what I was wondering. It's just like, I haven't seen head or tail of Wout, Vingegaard, Roglic, Laporte. Just like, I'm just we're getting to March, guys. Like, Omloop's just around the corner. Like, surely, I don't know. It feels weird to have not seen them after all. They are just so prevalent on our TV screen so much of the year that it feels weird that I haven't seen them in months. I mean, wow, of course, more recently through cyclocross as well. Seen him there, but it seems like forever since I've seen Vingegaard. Isn't he doing Fon Ardèche Classic, something like that?
Gran Camino in Spain.
Yes, he's doing that. So, but I feel like Vingegaard's he doesn't really seem to get into full speed until he gets to the Tour, sort of like you were saying earlier, Scott, how VGC riders who seem to solely aim at just the Grand Tour, unlike Pogačar, who does kind of a bit of everything. So Vingegaard, I mean, of course, Vingegaard and Pogačar are both going to Paris-Nice. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen there, especially if there's some crosswind action. I think that'll be a fantastic watch. I love watching Paris-Nice when there's a bit of crosswind action going on, just to see, can Jumbo put him under pressure, Pogačar that is, in some crosswinds with some dominant team performance possibly. So we'll wait and see. I don't know where Jumbo-Visma are. They just seem to be sending under 23 riders to everything, but that's all right. At least they get their opportunity.
This feels like characteristic Jumbo-Visma now. For the past maybe season, it's been like this. Even looking back now, with their Giro performances over the past 3 years, pretty anonymous there. It's almost as if with outside of their main goals of the season, what's the point of trying? What's the point of sending these guys to sort of get them a little bit racing in the legs, get them used to riding against Pogačar in a fully formed UAE. Now, let's send them to an altitude camp for as long as possible. So the likes of Laporte, Roglic, all that, they'll be chilling at sort of 3,000 meters above sea level somewhere on some sort of altitude camp, getting ready for the later goals. I don't necessarily think that's the best approach, but it's Jumbo-Visma. They've probably done the calculations and they're doing this. Jumbo-Visma are sort of the more innovative team of this age. They're like the Team Sky of years gone by in terms of pushing and sort of making new trends. And I think that they're doing this altitude camp spiel more than UAE. We'll find out at Paris-Nice whether it works or not, because Pogačar is going to have an awful lot of racing in his legs. Vingegaard is not. Vingegaard has proved that he can compete at the highest level, but he hasn't won a UCI World Tour stage race yet in his career. That's what I'm saying. Oh, apart from the Tour de France, I mean, in terms of 1 week long stage race.
Yeah, I was gonna say
on the World Tour level, 1 week long stage race.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. Funnily enough, I just
yeah. I mean, look at UAE. They're sending Sepp Kuss that we spoke about. That he's not really a GC leader. The Giro, they got the blue jersey, but it's like, is that really something they're going to be happy about? 2 stages with Koen Bouwman, but again, it's not. That's not where really we're expecting Jumbo. We would expect them to have a podium at least in every single Grand Tour.
I think as well that's what's creating such kind of intense discourse about Roglic, of whether Roglic should go to the Giro than the Tour de France, in terms of everyone just assumes Jumbo just pour all of their resources into the Tour de France. It's a bit like Team Sky back in 2015, 16, if you recall. Then Sky would have sort of a wild card Giro, then put all of the resources into the Tour de France and get the best result possible. It's almost as if no other races in the calendar exist apart from races outside of the Fifth French Republic. It's an interesting approach. I don't necessarily think I agree with it. Us as fans, of course, we're hungry for more, but I think once they get some good results going, then they keep that ball rolling. We saw last summer, there were days where there was a Jumbo-Visma victory almost every day on different corners of Europe for weeks upon end, where you have Olaf Koy winning in Spain one day, you have Wout van Aert winning a race in the Netherlands the next day. It really was sort of a chain reaction and domino effect within the team and their victories. But so far this season, we're not seeing it. I think they're playing their cards close to their chest and really banking everything on these altitude camps. For instance, Roglic is only racing once before the Giro d'Italia this year, when he goes to the Volta Catalunya in Spain. So I think that shows, even with Vingegaard's reduced racing schedule as well, I think it shows that they really are hoping that these altitude camps and the training that they're doing, their blocks, their sort of personal private training blocks, are going to outdo the public showdowns against Pogačar that we as fans really want to see.
Yeah, I guess they want that because, like you say, they want to keep their cards close to their chest. If they go racing and then people can see what kind of shape their rider's in, if they go on an altitude camp and it's all behind curtains, then all of a sudden when they turn up to a race, people aren't too sure what to expect until all of a sudden Vingegaard hits them with a devastating attack and wins. Everybody thinks, well, where did that come from? And that's the whole point. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know if he's doing really good or really bad. You're in completely the dark. So we know about as much as UAE do. So therefore they're just like, well, we don't know. Vingegaard could be crap, he could be good. Who knows?
At the same time, it gives them less sort of opportunity to test out racing tactics and sort of get that racing simulation in their legs. Remember last year at Paris-Nice on stage 1, that move with Van Hooijdonk, with Roglic, Wout, and Laporte? They replicated that in Calais at the Tour de France. They copy-paste they're not going to have as many opportunities to do that with copy paste with Vingegaard there, with less racing on their hands. Also, with sort of scenarios, remember the last stage of Paris last year when Wout had to sort of be the savior for Roglic. That could happen at this year's Tour de France, where one rider really has to help out the other rider on a difficult rolling stage with many hills and mountains on the agenda. I think racing provides a really, really good opportunity to test up and tune up not only your legs, but also your mentality. These altitude camps, they're great. You get to do motor pacing up a big old volcano in Tenerife. Wow. But it's not the same as powering up these sort of Andalusian climbs alongside Pogačar and seeing what he is like at this time of year with his new squad, with Tim Wellens, with Felix Gauchardner, with these guys that we're probably going to see race with him later into the calendar.
Well, enough talking about the top two teams. We are also going to focus on the third team, we would say. Ineos Grenadiers, they had a very good Volta Algarve, a race that they've won many times before, but it was actually their first victory since 2018. And guys, it came down to a very thrilling finish on the final time trial, 24.4 kilometer time trial. Tom Pidcock was in the yellow jersey. He had a formidable save on the course as well, just demonstrating his incredible bike handling skills. But ultimately, he didn't win it. What did you guys think of the Vuelta al Algarve this year?
I really like it as a race because it just provides a good varied. You get two sprints, you get two hilltop finishes of differing characteristics. One's sort of longer and shallower, one's shorter and steeper, and then you get a TT at the end. So I think it's a very complete race for only over a 5-day period. And I really enjoyed it. It was especially the GC kind of group which got away in like a breakaway. And then Magnus Cort kind of kicked with like 500 meters to go out the corner. It just provided some more entertaining racing than just a straight bunch sprint. Jakobsen was surprisingly AFK, kind of, to be honest with you. He wasn't really there in stage. Well, he finished fourth in stage one, but he got dropped off and he didn't go anywhere, which was a bit surprising, to be honest with you. I was shocked that he didn't win that first stage. That was won by Christoph, which was obviously instigated by Scott's interviewing him. That was clearly the stars aligned there. And then, Magnus Cort Nielsen just about beat Alain van Wilder, who thought that he won on stage two, which was it would have been a really lovely kind of copy and paste of when Remco won up there the other year, because Van Wilder and Remco are very similar sorts of builds, so it would have been cool to have basically just like them side by side. Unfortunately, Magnus Cort Nielsen ruined this, but that is what it is. That was a very cool victory. And then Pidcock again, joy for Yorkshire, another win on the board this season. We're going to have to keep a tally going because we're just doing too good right now. And that was good to see. And then Pidcock really then fucked it in the TT. Didn't do that great.
But I mean, they still came away with a victory. Daniel Martinez, who saw that coming, really? We know he's improved as a time trialist, but a Colombian winning a stage race after a time trial is not something you hear every day.
Yeah, also, I mean, just like thinking about how the week started as well, Uno X winning a proper bunch sprint, we don't really see that too often. And it was a really good...
San Welshard?
Well, yeah, I was about to say Son Valenschal provided an excellent lead out for Christoph, which I think gives some very good sort of a very good indicator of what we're going to see later on in the year at the Tour de France when they line up there in the Basque Country for the first time. Varenschal looks to be a pretty solid lead-out man. If you get Rasmus Tiller as well to get involved in that lead-out, it really could be quite ferocious. I don't know if Christoph still has that sort of top-level speed at a Tour de France level. Yes, he can win an Algarve stage. The Tour de France is a step up. We'll see what happens later this year at the other French races like Paris and Dauphiné. But I mean, Magnus Cort with that victory from the breakaway, I think that will probably go down as one of the strongest performances of the year. I'm going to say it now. 30 kilometers in sort of a team time trial performance in the breakaway to sprint away with 500 meters to go after investing so much in that move. That's impressive. It was fantastic. The sprinters behind couldn't come close. I think that's one of the most impressive victories I've seen in a while. Pogačar, I mean, it's a different level of impressive. I think Cort there was just absolutely fantastic. Even a sprint up to win the mountain stage as well was really, really phenomenal. He came from a far way back. His final dash in the sort of final bit of a stage, it is ferocious. And then the final TT, Pidcock fading, and Ganna as well, not getting the mark again. We haven't seen full form Pipo Ganna in a while. I think Pipo Ganna World Destroyer. When's the last time we saw that? Dauphiné 2022, dare I
I can't
say?
even remember.
Boss wearing the jersey as well for the first time, not winning.
It's the first time he wore it in 2023, wore it in 2022 at the end at the Chrono des Nations.
Oh, he said in an interview it was the first time he wore it.
Somehow I wasn't surprised that Voss didn't win though.
No.
I mean, in a similar way, like he's a good time trialist, in a very similar way to how Worlds last year, nobody really expected him to win. I didn't really expect him to win today.
Yeah, but is this the age of the Kung? Is Kung gonna finally get the big win?
King Kung is back, baby.
The time has come.
With Stephen Kung, long-time followers of the King Kung narrative will know that he performs at races you don't expect. Like he beats the best in the world at stages that aren't really the top level stages. The European Championships, for instance, this sort of race, the NACO Tour, rest in peace. Plenty of other sort of stages that he's really good quality competition, but he can't sort of beat them at a Tour de France stage, can't beat them at the World Championships, a Giro or Vuelta stage. He doesn't have a Grand Tour stage to his name as an individual. And I just really hope King Kung can translate this into a really good classics result. He has it in him to win Paris-Roubaix. I mean, he was climbing brilliantly in Algarve as well. Even just winning sort of a one week long stage race somewhere could really sort of add something to Kung's palmarès.
Well, looking at the jerseys as well, Magnus Cort winning the points, obviously, but Kasper Asgreen took the Manson's jersey, and Oscar Onley, the next talented super talent from the UK, taking the youth jersey. But that aside, Tom Pidcock, we discussed this through this race. Is this a sign that he might be on to being having the GC potential here?
So I was really excited when I saw that Pidcock won on stage 4, because I immediately thought he's going to have to go really hard in the TT on stage 5. And we haven't seen Pidcock have to go hard on a TT to try and win a GC in such a long time that it would really give us a good kind of yardstick as to how good he would be as a GC contender in the future against a Pogačar and a Vingegaard, for example, because clearly he has the climbing ability, but the time trialing is so integral nowadays that you need to be good at that as well. And he definitely didn't hit the mark in the TT. I know he did pull off some trickster skills and stuff, but the last time we saw him go full gas in the TT was like Junior Worlds in Bergen, which was, when was that? Was that 2017, 2018?
Yeah, 17.
17. And I was like, how's he going to be from now, kind of now as a TT rider? And yeah, he wasn't that great, unfortunately, which was it was a little bit painful for me. But he could still improve. You never know. Maybe he will.
Yeah, to be honest, he hasn't really competed in that many time trials at the senior level, because he doesn't enter many stage races. It's usually one-day races in his program. Last year's Tour de France had 2 time trials. He did the Volta the year before, where he did a couple of time trials. But apart from that, Algarve last year, he didn't make it to the time trial at the Tour de Suisse. So, I mean, and the Tour of Britain didn't have a time trial as well. So we haven't really seen him compete at time trials outside Grand Tour settings in the history, the great story of Tom Pidcock. So it was interesting to see, but yeah, he did sort of leave a lot to be desired. We've seen guys with the other 2 cyclocross stars, Wout and Mathieu, have proved that they are quite strong time trialists. Mathieu particularly at a shorter distance. So I was maybe hoping, as well, with his background in the rainbow jersey, and he's done well in time trials at the Baby Giro in the past as well, that would reflect into his senior career, but it's just not quite there for me.
Yeah, I can see what you mean, because we have seen him do good GC in the Baby Giro in the past. Like, he has won that race. And of course he won up Alpe d'Huez, that fantastic stage, which was one of the best from last year's Tour, in my opinion. Just from the amazing descending event.
A bit biased, but sure.
It's not biased, Scott. And so those kind of climbing performances, I was thinking, yeah, he's got potential. And I think that certainly if he managed to improve on his TT, I'm not sure how much scope there is for that, considering how sort of dialed in Ineos are already. I presume he's already quite, aero as he is. How much better can he get at that to try and mitigate it? Then again, you could also say Jai Hindley has won the Giro d'Italia, and he isn't good at time trialing. So therefore, is Pidcock being bad at time trialing? that much of a hindrance. It would be against a Pogačar and a Vingegaard in a Tour de France, but if Pogačar and Vingegaard weren't there, could Pidcock be very competitive? I think he probably could be.
I'm going to say something that I don't think you're going to like. I think we need to pop the bubble on the Can Tom Pidcock win a Grand Tour bubble.
The crowd at the Rouleur Classic would have been really annoyed. The whole room was like,
exactly.
Pidcock's the next hope.
Train. No, this whole hype train has been driven choo-choo by British people. I don't. Yes, maybe a couple of years back in 2020, 2021, we could have said, oh yeah, maybe when we were first having these discussions on the main Cycling Day channel of could he be a great Grand Tour champion? He's 23 now, and where are the GC results, bro?
Wow.
No,
so mean.
Tour de France last year, he finished in 16th place overall. Yes,
that's pretty good.
It's pretty. Aurelia Paris-Peintre has a better GC Grand Tour record than him, with a 15th and a 16th place in GC.
But was he a domestique?
Was he? He wasn't really a domestique. He had the chance to go and take back time in a breakaway stage as well. By the way, it was a breakaway stage he won in Alpe d'Huez. It wasn't because he distanced Pogačar and Vingegaard.
That is true.
We often
that is a good point.
He distanced Chris Froome, who's a 5-time.
Come on.
This is four-time winner.
4-time. I dream of it as 5.
Okay, and Louis Meintjes. Fair enough.
What's wrong with Louis Meintjes? That was a dig and a half.
No. Louis Meintjes did finish in top 10, and I was bigging him up to do so. He has a good Grand Tour record. But Pidcock still won that stage from a breakaway. It's a different scenario if he had won that stage from a proper GC group. Same thing as Wout van Aert. When people say, Wout van Aert's a great climber. Has Wout van Aert won a World Tour mountain stage? Also, Pidcock has only ever won one UCI World Tour level race win. That was that Tour de France stage. He only has 3 wins on his palmarès: Flèche Brabançon, Brabant-Sapel, whatever you want to call it, the Tour de France stage, and this stage in Algarve. There has not been anything else in his record in terms of wins. It's similar in cyclocross. Yes, he has a rainbow jersey. He only has one cyclocross World Cup victory to his name. Correct me if I'm wrong. For a guy who's often
I think he won one more. I think he has 2.
Yeah, but it's... I think we often inflate his name. Yes, he is great at what he does in terms of his off-the-bike stuff, in terms of being a flag bearer for this new generation of British talent, and also the poster boy of Ineos Grenadiers. He's done a great job of that. He makes headlines in the UK more than other riders have since the Froome era. Geraint Thomas I would include as the Froome era. But also in terms of his mountain biking skills, his cyclocross skills, yes, it's great what he does off the bike. But on the road, I feel like we almost often inflate his reputation in road racing. Yes, he won the Baby Giro. That was great for him as a youth rider. But looking through the palmarès of the Baby Giro, it's not quite as reliable of a source as great Grand Tour success as the Tour de l'Avenir is. Looking back, we see in 2018, Andres Ardilla won the race. The guy is now on Pro Continental level. Joe Dombrowski has won that race in the past. Matteo Catania has won that race in the past. These are guys who don't really finish in top 10s in Grand Tours. Just because Pidcock won that race, I'm not quite convinced that's going to translate into senior success. He was young when he won that race, and he's 23 now. I know I'm making that seem as if he's about to get his pension, but he's the same age as Tayman Arensman. Arensman's like 5-6 months older than him. Younger than him, rather. And Arensman is being bigged up as the race leader for Ineos going into races, such as Algarve. Yes, he had mechanical problems, which ruled him out of the mountain stage in Algarve. But Tayman Arensman has been given these opportunities, while Pidcock is not. I think Ineos maybe know something about his numbers that we as spectators don't know. Yes, of course, we want this great new British talent, sort of woo, hooray. But I don't think Pidcock's that guy. You got to look towards Scotland, ladies and gentlemen. Oscar Onley, I think, had a more convincing GC performance this week, and he's what, 18, 19 years old?
I think he's
a child.
I think he's 20, but still, yeah.
Still, that's 3 years younger than Pidcock.
Yeah, I was going to say, Onley actually did a really good TT, considering that he has literally never competed in a world top this level of TT. He actually did really good. I think he got a very similar time to Casper Asgreen, and I was like, Jesus Christ, Donnelly, this is incredible. And that's such a great performance from him. I know that he's very well renowned for he went head to he went head to head with Vingegaard in the crow race. But let's face it was the crow race. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. But also, do you guys think this is concerning for Ineos, the fact that Pidcock isn't perhaps the GC that they were thinking of? Because obviously they're going through this rebuilding, aren't they? And they're like Pidcock and Plapp, and these guys need to be the Pogačar and Vingegaard beaters in the future. And at the moment, I don't really see that they're standing up to that.
No, I think that they're signing a lot of talent that is very, very good. It's a lot of talent. But I don't think anything is quite on the Pogačar Vingegaard level. They could build a very good young team as a collective, a very good wildcard team, but I don't think they have sort of an individual who could topple Vingegaard or Pogačar come July at the Tour de France. Pidcock, I don't think is that guy. Anantman is cool, calm and collected in the TTs and rides pretty strongly in the mountains. Rode a really good Volta a España, tactically quite intelligent as well at that Volta a España. Maybe he is one of the good younger riders. He only just turned 23 recently, so he's one of the younger guys that could have a good shout. But yeah, I mean, I think what I could see Pidcock doing quite well is filling in a Michał Kwiatkowski position in the years to come, in terms of a guy. He's a really good wild card, good sort of backbone to the team, fielded to Grand Tour lineups for the Tour de France. He can get a win at the likes of the Tour of Poland, at Paris-Nice, maybe a couple of stage wins there. He might be able to win at least one UCI World Tour level stage race victory somewhere in the next 5 years, but he's not going to be raking them in like the team leader, someone like Daniel Martinez, Egan Bernal also will be doing. I think he would fill the Kwiatkowski role very well now that Kwiatkowski is probably looking towards the end of his career. And even Kwiat had the chance to win some classics like the sort of Amstel Gold to the world or the Idri Harelbekers of the calendar that I think Pidcock as well could perform very highly at. So I think we should look towards Pidcock more as a sort of well-rounded wild card instead of being this big GCU hope that we're expecting him to grow into.
Yeah, and I think his antics off the road, like the mountain biking and the cyclocross, I think that fulfills him enough as a rider. And then throwing in classics, that's probably enough for him to, well, he's one of the most famous riders, despite, as Ewan said, only having 3 victories on his Palmares. But yeah, anyways, we can't just talk about Tom Pidcock. Moving on to French racing, and let's hand over to Ewan, even though Matthias Skjelmose took another victory. So yeah, I have to pick up the Danish flag there. Ewan, who are you supporting? We got Yorkshire, we got Denmark, and anti-England.
Well, I guess Oscar Onley to some extent, but he didn't take a victory this week. But a couple of riders I do sort of big up have. Beginning, I should say it was a Tour des Alpes Maritimes du Var, right in the south of France, towards sort of Nice area, French Riviera, the fancy holiday destinations you might see some millionaires going to. However, this week there were 3 stages of racing there. Last year the race was won by Nairo Quintana. We don't talk about that one. But stage 1 opened up with a stage into Ramatuelle, and it was won by Kevin Vauquelin, who won from a solo effort in the final couple of kilometers, 5 seconds across the line, ahead of Nielsen Paulus, who's become the king of Provence recently, and Kevin Genietz of Luxembourg for Groupama Française des Jeux. That put Vauquelin in the lead. He tried to replicate down stage 2, which went down to Antibes, almost the bougiest of the bougie seaside resorts, but it wasn't quite enough. He was caught, and in the end, it was a scrappy sprint led out by EF, who we thought were going to get something with their double act of Andrea Piccolo and Nielsen Paulus, but they were outdone by a very strong-looking Matthias Skjelmose from Denmark and Trek Segafredo. But that still left Vauquelin in the lead for Arkea Samsic. And on the final stage of racing, Vauquelin secured things, not with a stage win. He just stayed in the mix, whilst Aurélien Paille-Peintre of AG2R Citroën went out with another late solo attack, sort of the theme of the week. And he took the win for the stage, but overall went to Kevin Vauquelin ahead of Paille-Peintre and Nielsen Paulus in 3rd place for the USA. So Trek Segafredo missed out on the podium, but it's good news for Arkea, who proved they can get a good victory without Buani, without Wawa, and also without Quintana on their roster.
I really like Kevin Vauquelin. I think that he's probably one of the most exciting French talents coming up alongside Romain Grégoire, and also Hugo Page. I think they are just outstanding French talents. I can't believe how young they are. And Vauquelin, of course, he's going to Paris-Nice. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do there. He's a very strong all-rounded rider. He can time trial. I think it'll be interesting to see how he goes on more higher mountains. I expect that he will struggle, but he's only like 21. I think that Arkea have him. Didn't they get like pen to paper at the end of last year? I think it's extended to like 2025, 2026 is Vauquelin.
2025 is
that's a great move by Arkea. I think that he's such a great talent, and I'm really excited to see what he can do. It wouldn't even surprise me if he got taken for the Tour this year. Honestly, it really wouldn't. I know that's a bit far-fetched, but I'm just throwing it out there. I'm quite high on him.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of really good French talent coming through. Also, Paul Penouet as well, great rider, riding well in the sprints. Just speaking about Hugo Page, I'm not sure if you saw during the week, but Hugo Page was doing some absolutely fantastic sprint training. Very exciting for the races to come later in the calendar. But for Vauquelin, 21 years of age, very promising. We spoke about him the other week at Bessèges, super strong week there. At 21 years of age, he is looking like a very exciting prospect, and it's also good to see Aurélien Paris-Peintre as well get another high level win. He's been super consistent at getting sort of top 15s at UCI World Tour races. We spoke about his Grand Tour record as well, which is, by the way, better than Tom Pidcock's. And also the fact that he can bag a top 10 in Dauphiné, Paris-Nice. Pays Basque, he can get top 10s in these kind of races throughout the season without sort of making a fuss or a song or dance about it. He might get one win at sort of La Marseillaise or something, but he getting this win from Breakaway on the final day of racing and finishing second overall, I think is a great sign of things to come. So I think it's exciting for Age Desert to have Paris-Peintre at a top level. He's coming towards the point in his career where he should get that big win soon on the UCI World Tour level.
Well, before we go into our riders of the week, we're going to include something new, and we're going to have a bit more of a look at the UCI rankings right now for the teams, because we focus so much on the relegation battle, it gets a bit tedious. So looking at the top 10 teams right now, we've got UAE at the top, courtesy of Pogačar's win and Jay Vine, but Intermarché doing really well early on in the season. Second, Ineos Grenadiers, third, EF Education, fourth. And again, the narrative that we spoke about earlier, where is Jumbo-Visma? They're nowhere in the top echelon of the ranking. So yeah, it's just a reflection of how the season's gone so far. But does that surprise you at all that we haven't got Jumbo-Visma in the top 5?
No, because they haven't been there in races. They haven't been able to score points. I think when these other teams have been performing well, they've been scoring points, but I think once we get to the proper bulky bit of the season, it's going to flip. I think March is going to be the big turning point. After Omloop, I think that weekend, it's the first World Tour one-day race, but I think once we get to the Paris-Nice week, with Paris-Nice and Tirreno, that narrative, I think, will change quite quickly once Vingegaard should get rolling at Paris-Nice.
Into perspective, the Thailand Continental Cycling Team is ahead of them right now in the rankings. Even Bardiani CSF.
Oh, okay.
That's the level we're at.
Jesus. Who's scored points for Jumbo this year? It would be like what? Thomas Gloag is like GC.
Coy was second
to Biniam.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about. Apart from that, Gloag has been up there a wee bit at whichever race it was, Valenciana. That's it, really. Yeah. And they don't have any sort of Australasian riders. Well, they have Finn Fisher-Black, but if they pushed for the Australasian riders to go for the national championships, there would have been more points as well. Yeah. They weren't really there at Santos Tour Down Under either. But
Dennis wasn't. Dennis won a stage, but he didn't GC, did he?
Fair play, yeah. I forgot
about that.
I did too.
Sorry, Roman Dennis.
He's retiring.
Retiring as well. We didn't really talk about that last week. It is what it is.
Also, there's murmurs about Romain Bardet as well retiring soon, but we don't know when.
After he wins the Tour.
Well, he's very optimistic about the Tour. I saw an interview he did earlier this week where he said he was looking forward to it. He liked the fact there wasn't much time trialing. Puy de Dôme, the big climb, is not very far away from his hometown of Brioude, so he knows the Massif Central quite well. He's looking forward to sort of getting to grips with that. But the last time we were in the Massif Central, he got concussed, so hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Fingers crossed, Romain.
Yeah, Romain Bardet, avid viewer of the Echelon cycling podcast. But that aside, we come to our favorite part of the week, the rider of the week from each of us. And who wants to go for? Well, you already know, Patrick. So we'll start with you. And
the little boy from Komenda, Slovenia, who broke into the cycling.
I know both yours. Like,
give me time to do the full narrative. Got into cycling, riding on his unicycle, doing little shows for his little Slovenian village. Then slowly but surely, he was scouted after he lapped kids a couple of years older than him in a circuit race in Slovenia when he was just a little eensy-wincy teenager. And then, shablamo, he became the phenomenon he is today. Tadej Pogačar. I think it's a phenomenal, unprecedented week of racing. If you saw Wout van Aert winning 4 stages in 1 week and a GC, I think everyone would be foaming at the mouth. It would really just it would be this huge spectacle. But because it's Pogačar, I think we're a little bit more muted. But we shouldn't take away from this absolute this monumental feat.
I think I'm going to surprise you because I'm not going to pick Tom Pidcock because I'm actually going to go with a head pick here. There's somebody who I was thinking, you know what, who's done something which I'm kind of want to pick Kung because he finally got that kind of big TT win ahead of kind of Ganna and some other big names. But I'm actually going to pick Ilan van Wilder for finishing on a podium for his first stage race and, just give him the opportunity outside of the thumb of, Remco Evenepoel. He's not a domestique and he showed his talent. He took the opportunity with both hands and good on him for getting a 3rd place and just kind of he's given a bit of a call out like, don't forget about me. I'm still good. So yeah, good for him. I'm happy that he finished 3rd.
And I'm gonna pick Alexander Kristoff because I think Uno X beating Fabio Jakobsen and Michael Melker was quite nice, but equally Magnus Cort Nielsen, we could pick him as well because 2 victories as well. Like Ewan said, bigging up his one of his stage wins. And who knows what he's going to be doing in this season. But anyway, that's it for this, our 4th episode. Can you believe it? Make sure to check out the podcast, available on all the different podcast platforms, even the Amazon one. And like the video, subscribe to the channel and comment down below what your rider of the week has been, or if you've disagreed with anything or agreed with anything that we've said. And until the next one, thank you very much for watching and have a nice day.